Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Ever wondered what happens when a Zoomer who grew up on the Clone Wars,
a millennial Anakin defender,
and a grumpy old Gen Xer walk into a cantina to talk Star Wars?
Then we've got the podcast for you.
Star Wars Generations is a place for fans of all backgrounds to come together, talk about why we love the franchise, and what we can learn from each other.
With so much new Star Wars content coming out, we take a deep dive into all of it. We talk stories and characters, what we learn about the Force and the Empire, Republics old and new, and how each story adds to the larger picture.
Besides episode-by-episode coverage of the new shows, we've been going back to watch the movies in release order. We talk about Star Wars novels and video games, along with fan content and cosplay.
And with each episode, we're just starting the conversation, and we hope you jump in. We'll read your feedback, answer your questions. We've even had full episodes dedicated to questions raised by listeners like you.
You can find us under Star Wars Generations on your favorite podcast app, or by going to theethicalpanda.com. May the Force be with you.
Now this is podcasting.
Ever wonder where the devil got his horns?
How about those cloven hooves?
Or that pitchfork?
Wasn't he an angel?
No, he was a snake.
No, he's the great red dragon.
No, he's the beast.
He's the prince of this world.
Prince of darkness.
Well, he's the prince of dark.
Good morning, Star Lovelies. One of my names is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I sometimes go by Keenan Diaz.
And we're the hosts of the brand new podcast, The Devil's Details. What comes to mind when I say Lucifer?
How about Satan?
What about just the devil? How did the big bad of the Western world end up with so many faces? Join us as we dig up, decipher, and deconstruct the devil's many forms throughout history.
Take a guided tour with Dante through the 9 circles of hell.
Or revisit Satan's angsty bad boy years in Paradise Lost.
Learn the ins and outs of a Faustian contract.
Easier than a 1099, but with a hell of a lot more fine print.
Slither on over to The Devil's Details on True Story FM and join us in the diabolic discussion.
Love and hisses. Mwah! Didn't Al Pacino play him in a movie?
Are you sure that wasn't Robert De Niro?
I could have sworn it was Tim Curry.
That was Elizabeth Hurley.
Didn't he go down to Georgia at some point?
Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a weekly podcast in which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 5-minute segments and examine an obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Storywell podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco. And can a direct correlation be made between one amazing actor in 2 iconic roles and a camcorder from 2011? The answer is yes, on this episode of the Marvel Movie Minute.
Oh, very nice, because we're here to discuss IM3 from the far back year of 2013, directed by Shane Black, written by Shane Black and Drew Pearce. As Rob alluded to, we're going to talk about that. Plus, we're going to see the return of some beloved MCU characters, 2 of which don't have faces. We'll be discussing police corruption, jazz, Old West atrocities, Billy Shakes, Captain Planet, and what to do when your butt plate goes rogue.
Wow.
It's been 5 minutes. Let's jump in right to minute 6, because we start out at stately Stark Manor as we come back from our flashback into what is quote unquote present day, which is December. And we know that because we start seeing some of the decorations as we go through, as the voiceover is playing. I also like the fact that Tony is telling the story, as we don't know to whom, though that will be revealed eventually, that he says, instead of saying, I am Tony Stark, I am, he says, you know who I am, which is, first of all, funny. Second of all, is a callback to the sticker that he had on himself at the conference that we saw last time. The first sort of voice we hear, sort of real voice, is actually Jarvis. So Jarvis, played by Paul Bettany. Between Avengers and this, Paul did a movie called Blood. In 2012. It is a thriller charting the moral collapse of a police family. 2 cop brothers, smothered by the shadow of their former police chief father, must investigate a crime they themselves have committed.
Ooh. I've never heard of this movie.
I had neither, but I've never. Paul Bettany. It has Mark Strong, Stephen Graham, and Brian Cox in it. It is like right in that that sort of dreary British crime thriller thing, like the Broadchurch, sort of like a lot of grays and rain and people like screaming at each other. And like, I watched the trailer for it and I was like, hey, you know what? This actually looks like a pretty decent movie, because they they essentially, like, this is not a spoiler. I didn't actually watch the movie. I just watched the trailer. They find a guy who they know is killed a girl. Like they 100%, like, but they can't, as cops, prove it. But during their intense off the books interrogation, the guy dies.
Oh.
And so now they hide the body. The body gets found, and now they have to investigate who killed this guy when in fact they're the ones who killed this guy. And then it becomes this whole thing about, like, who do you trust? And, you know, can they, you know, they're still partners, and, like, will one betray the other, and all this, you know, cop drama stuff. So,
okay. Well, maybe that's the reason why we haven't heard of the movie.
Maybe it's a mid-budget stuff too, but like a really strong cast. That too.
That's a great cast, absolutely. All right.
That's it. But if you go searching for it, don't be confused by the film Blood from 2022, which stars Michelle Monaghan, who was the co-star of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which starred Robert Downey Jr. and was written and directed by Shane Black. So things get all sort of intermingled in there. That is essentially what turns out to be a vampire movie. Oh. It's a woman that has two kids, trying to raise them on her own, and one kid falls in the woods and gets injured. And then when he recovers, all he wants to do is drink blood. And so it becomes this whole thing of her, like, trying to be a good mom, but then this kid is clearly turning into a vampire. And so,
oh my God.
Yeah. So it is as we get back into the movie, it is Christmas time. We see a Christmas tree as we go back into Stark R&D. I think he has a little post-it up on the glass walls in his basement, and one of the first things we see glowing in the background, which I think may be a recurring theme here in Iron Man 3, are, yes, we're going to pay for advertising, but we want it to glow.
Yeah, that's Sun Oracle.
Sun Oracle just glowing behind.
Now, interesting that they would do this. Okay, so this movie's filmed in 2012?
Yes.
Roughly?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay, so the acquisition was just 2 years earlier than that. So Sun Microsystems got bought by Oracle Corporation. I think it was January 2010. Obviously a big deal. And for anyone who was alive during the beginnings of the internet, Sun Microsystems was infinitely important during that. I remember, right. I think like the first website we worked on was like on a SunSpark 2 that we bought used, right? So like they were it. Them being bought by Oracle, massive deal. Obviously they wanted to herald it. They did it in this movie. They must have paid certainly a nice amount.
Yeah. Yeah, as they have in the last two. Right. We talked about that too. So we see that Tony, rather than building something, seems to be experimenting on himself. So we've sort of crossed over into biotechnology, which will be a theme as we go through. We see him with some sort of originally we were thinking, if you come right from Iron Man 2 to this, like, is he doing more stuff with the toxicology? Like, is he something back as, you know, more of blood disorder? Did the Starkium not do what it was supposed to do? But then as he puts the last one in, he says it is a microrepeater implanting sequence complete. So he is implanting himself with micro repeaters.
Does he say, I looked at the subtitles, does he say, it's hard to understand? I thought he put the word microcomputer really fast together.
Oh, is that what it was? I think. I sort of played a couple times trying to get it as well.
Yeah. It was interesting the way it comes out and sounds. Hey, but guess what? We say hello to one of our old friends here, the inanimate object called the jet injector. Which, if you remember from earlier seasons of the Marvel Movie Minute, we have talked about jet injection.
That's right.
And how it was important in the early 20th century and mid 20th century for vaccinations. And here it is again.
Yeah, that's right. We had a whole conversation about the needles and not needing of them.
Not like, cool.
It's like something about that like air gun thing just seems futuristic to me. Like just the you know. Except
that mark it leaves it, because it does leave a mark.
Yeah, that is true. And we actually see as he has these marks all along his arms, even though we don't exactly know what he's doing at this point. At this point, Jarvis is sort of warning him a little bit because apparently he's been awake for 72 hours.
Ouch.
Yeah,
that's too much.
That's too much. That's gonna do some stuff to your head. We see Dummy is back now wearing a dunce cap. We're not actually sure what he did, but it was something that made Tony a little upset.
Okay, now I forget. Do we ever find out
No, I don't think
because
so.
I feel bad.
Yeah.
And by the way, recurring themes. So here's
Yes.
one of the things, and I'm glad you brought that up. So
Yeah.
one of the things about the way he's got the dunce hat on and everything, and even the way he's talking to him, there are several moments we're about to see here and in very close future minutes.
Yeah.
Tony is very dismissive.
Yes.
And he is insulting, actually, you could even say, to the people around him that he knows and doesn't know. And this has got a huge attitude. I mean, I think one of the things I didn't notice the first time around I saw this movie, but here it is. The whole kind of joke of the past and the present, and you just said that too, where he said, "You know who I am?"
Yeah.
Little actually has changed.
Yes. Yeah, this is one of the. I mean, it's not much on display here. We might get into a little more later, but this is one of the things that annoys me a little bit about the way the MCU has sort of been constructed. Is they keep resetting the clock on Tony.
Right.
And here we see we're right back to this guy thing. Now they'll get into a little bit more as it goes along about like what it is that he's feeling and how he's reacted to this too. But yeah, once again, we're sort of back to like, oh, I thought we had like after Iron Man 1, like you're sort of like, oh, different place. Then Iron Man 2 happens, like, oh, we're back to that Tony. And then he gets to the end and has a big revelation and she's together with Pepper and everything's great. And then we reset again for Avengers. And now here we are coming out of Avengers, top of the world, save the planet, like a hero to all, like they win, like the decisive victory. And now we're right back to like a-hole Tony.
It's almost like, well, and I think this is a theme that, again, I missed. I this movie may be deeper. Again, here we are in the second episode, and I'm starting to question everything I know about Iron Man 3. You know, Tony is in his core a very wounded, flawed individual who is not allowing himself to heal. So what does he do to compensate? He wraps himself up in a variety of things, and as we're about to find out, he's been tinkering with a lot of suits.
Yes, because as you're talking about, like the way he treats Dummy, and then also we see then when he goes to start whatever this experiment is, that you is his other robot is running the camera. And it was the first time we actually see Dummy is actually written on the side of Dummy's thing. I couldn't see if you had a U somewhere, but I'm sure it did.
So the camera, one thing he does is, and by the way, speaking of dummies, on his way across in the shop, he passes what is called a Wing Chun dummy or the wooden dummy. That's sort of like it's a training tool used in various forms of martial arts. I think that's interesting, right? And he takes a little moment there to like hit it around a few spots. You're coming really close to the camcorder moment, which is really important.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, we're going to get there.
Yeah,
I just want to mention, as we're talking earlier, because as you're talking about how he's treating these robots, I think that is actually beginning of a central theme that goes through Iron Man 3 is Tony's relationship with technology, because we're going to see very directly how he interfaces with suits and how the suits interface back with him, how he treats technology and how technology treats him back.
Yes.
That's going to be something that's going to continue on here. So we see that he is, as he prepares, he is doing something called the Mark 42 Anonymous Prehensile Propulsion Suit Test. So, all right, since this is our show, let's break this down a little bit. So we don't know, we now know, because we've seen the movie, what Mark 42 means, but at the time we don't exactly know what that means. So we just assume it's the 40-second test of this particular suit. Autonomous, we know what that is. That's sort of the idea that just like an Iron Man suit, it moves around. Prehensile is what sort of caught me. So prehensile, I looked that up, and the definition is adapted for seizing or grasping, especially by wrapping around. So prehensile, I'm like, oh, okay, so that makes sense in terms of like the pieces are going to wrap around his body. So that's where the prehensile comes from. Propulsion, not only does Iron Man suit fly, but it turns out all the individual pieces of this thing fly as well, and then suit test. So we have, what we're going to find out is that this is something that involves not a new suit, but not a suit in the way we've seen before. So as we wrap up minute 6, then we have Dummy is getting ready to videotape this. So Rob, can you tell us a little bit about the camera that Dummy is using, or I'm sorry, that you is using?
I believe you're talking about the Samsung HMX Q10 HD camcorder, ultra compact with 10 times optical zoom. Okay, I'm not gonna go into any other. Well, I am gonna go into one more detail about it. Interestingly enough, this camcorder was released or unveiled at CES in January of 2011. And one of the things that made it incredibly special was that it was designed to be ambidextrous. It was one of the first camcorders that it's fairly symmetrical except for the screen that pops out, and it's designed to where if you turn it for either hand, the interface auto-corrects. It flips itself. That is one of the first camcorders that did this.
Yeah.
Now, how do I connect that with Robert Downey Jr.? Robert Downey Jr. is right-handed, but in preparation for his 1992 role in the movie Chaplin, he went through many therapies and worked with a trainer because Chaplin was a left-handed performer, and he had to learn how to play the violin and do a whole bunch of other things. I think Tony Stark possibly might be ambidextrous, meaning that is why he chose this camcorder.
Yeah. I say that'd be an even deeper dive than we're willing to take.
That's okay. And I know there's people out there listening to this and they're going, okay, Rob. yeah, that's a stretch. You're right. It is. Touche.
Now I want to go back through and see like how many times he does something with his right hand versus.
That's what I thought too.
So let's as we get into 7, we have our first sort of music cue. In the modern times, we had Blue before, but now he says, "Jarvis, drop my needle," and the music begins playing. It is Jingle Bells, the Bombay Dub Orchestra remix. So this is essentially a traditional song that another group has gone into. So what you're hearing is the voice of Joe Williams. He was an American jazz singer. He sang with big bands like the Count Basie Orchestra, and that was an original song that a version of Jingle Bells he released. And then the Bombay Dub Orchestra is an electronica / orchestral project from composers Gary Hughes and Andrew T. McKay. It was released on an album called Christmas Remixed 2, which is still available. You can still get it it's streaming on Spotify, and you can get it on the Apple iTunes store. I don't think that Bombay Dub Orchestra is still together because I couldn't find anything they had done in the last 10 years or so. And their website has gone into the Wayback Machine. So I hope they have successful careers somewhere else. It just seems like the Bombay Dub Orchestra next to. And of course, Joe Williams is no longer with us either. But we still have this song, which has now gone into my Christmas rotation.
Absolutely. No, it's a great version of the song. Gives me a little Die Hard vibes, you know, of that sort of like jazzy sort of sounding take, or, you know, or the was that the Fat Boys? Who was that at the end of the first Die Hard?
Run DMC.
Run DMC. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Christmas in Hollis, Queens.
Thank you. Okay. So one little thing about Joe Williams. Joe Williams also did some acting as a side gig. Mm-hmm. He was in, for those of us of a certain age, remember the show Lou Grant? He was in that.
That was another almost multiversal.
Yes,
because same character from the Mary Tyler Moore Show,
but in a definitely different universe. Yeah. And he was Claire Huxtable's father in multiple episodes of a famous TV show from the late 80s, early 90s. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
That's right. Yeah. You also have Google, so if you really want to find,
I mean, you know, go ahead and find it out.
Then we get to our first sort of proper CG little sequence as we see what Tony has been working on. And it seems to be a suit that each piece can move itself and assemble on him, rather than we saw before in the first movie, him having to literally have different machines to get him in and out. And then by the time we get to the Avengers films, then he has like a moving gantry that can do it. And then we have the suitcase suit and all that stuff. And now we see that each individual part can propel itself. And so he starts with his arms using these sort of gesture commands to do that. Now, what was your impression? I was getting the impression that he was having some sort of a mental signal that would go along with it. It's not literally like whenever he would get that pose, it was sort of, I had the idea that he had some sort of system built into his body that would sort of like trigger it, and then the pose would be what pieces he wanted.
No, it's I think it's very clear it's a brain activated thing. I mean, it's brain in motion, but his motions seem to be much more comical and theatrical than they are, you know, mechanical.
Yes.
So
I mean, I wouldn't think that if he was just walking along and suddenly put his arms out in that particular.
Yeah, no, you don't want that. He's
flying.
He's doing some moves and stuff. So I think it is. I think it's all an integrated system. And also, there's a great couple shots in here that it is kind of wonderful. You see all the previous 7 suits, the first 7, and it is literally Marks 1 through 7 and Mark 5. You just mentioned the suitcase suit, Mark 5. So you see
in
that
order from left to right.
Yeah, they're right in order.
According to the Marvel encyclopedia, I don't have it with me. I can't remember the name, but that the first one is a replica,
right?
Because that was destroyed and obviously was then found by Obadiah Stane and all that kind of stuff too. So but the rest of them are the actual suits. Well, actually, I just read the second one probably isn't because that became War Machine. So I think the first two are probably replicas.
Yeah, that's probably correct. The one thing you get though, one of the hints we're talking about, where you mentioned, like 42, is that the 42nd test or what's happening here? Yeah. He says, "Welcome to the birthing suite," and it sounds like that's not the first time he said that to the audience of the original 7 suits, minus the first 2 that we just said. Yeah. So another hint that he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, because as we're looking, all the suits we see are the suits we've seen, right up until the last one from the Avengers, like with the extra pieces on the side on his shoulders. But then now this one we assume is the next suit in that line, but we're gonna find out later on that it in fact is not. So as he is sending all the individual pieces, then it seems to be going well as he's getting the arms. So he says, send them all. And that's when things start to go a little awry. As one piece comes flying directly at him, he has to dodge it, and it crashes into one of the suits and lodges itself in there. And then all the things start flying around crazy. So like it appears he's got the first part in, and is maybe because they were all going at the same time that they get in each other's way. Maybe they have some sort of collision system and they're dodging each other as they're flying around. I wasn't sure. Or if it's just, is the suit just not ready and he's just like typical Tony Stark stuff. He's just pushing forward when he really should be taking the time to do this. This is maybe part of the fact that he hasn't slept for 72 hours. He's not making good decisions.
And by the way, once again, nothing's ever changed. Yeah. Jarvis is like, hey, should we test up now? Let's go do it. And bring it all, right? Harkens right back to the scene in the first movie where he's trying to do the flight testing and everything else. Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
In fact, I will tell you this. If I had a note here, bravado, recklessness, fear, repeat.
Yes.
That is literally all he's doing. And he does that cycle like twice in this moment.
Yeah, because if you go back to even the original Iron Man of taking the suit out for the first time from this very room and going out and then pushing it to the absolute limits and then nearly dying because it can't take the cold.
Yes.
Yeah, this is like I say, this typical Tony Stark. So we're
absolute. No, it's very evident, and I'm surprised. I think I was just annoyed last time.
As the parts are flying all over the place, it knocks over the record player, stopping the song, and then it seems to be like the suit has now been put together. So he has all of the pieces seemingly in place except for the faceplate, and then the faceplate flies past and hovers. And then the two of them square off, which I, once again, really like that. That's just a very visual thing of Tony facing the Iron Man faceplate and says, I ain't scared of you.
You will be. You will be.
That's right. And then, so the faceplate then inverts and then comes flying at him. And he realizes, oh no, in order to get this. So then he has to use the suit to flip himself upside down. So his head is inverted. And then the faceplate slams onto it. And then he flips and then lands in the typical Iron Man superhero pose, the 3-point pose.
By the way, that's a great scene.
Yeah. And it looks and the suit looks great for what we see.
I would imagine it's difficult if you're a flyer of drones. I guess none of these pieces have obstacle avoidance systems.
Well, see, I wondered about that too. Well, they do run into a lot of stuff in the wall.
Well, the face flips when it hits the table. So as it's flying towards him. So I mean, okay, clearly they're just okay, magnet, right to wherever the sensor is that he's implanted. So let me ask you, has he put implants all throughout his body?
That's what my impression was. Yeah, we just see the arm stuff too, but I really think that he has them all down like some of the sides of his body, almost like a dot to dot exoskeleton.
Did you not get weirded out when he got crotch popped by the
right, because that means you had to put one in the front and one in the back.
Yeah, dude, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? Because that's funny. Like that, there is in this whole sequence of all the pieces coming onto him.
Yeah.
There are some really greatly timed comedic moments, multiple moments strewn throughout this. So I love it. And also, let's give it up for his moves. Like even before this starts, when he moves down to the song,
that's right.
Like that's iconic. When he lifts the leg up and the knees, it's very good. This is a great little segment in the movie.
He's always been a great Robert Downey Jr. has always been a great physical performer, and so I think it must be great to, as the special effects wizards who have to do this, see what they get and go, oh man, I'm going to have some fun with this, because it's really just him, just in a gray, like his exercise gear, doing it at the end of the day. I mean, I don't think there were any of these actual pieces. Because I think like this was when the point they switched over, and almost all the suit stuff is CG.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is the point where like Iron Man 2, I think was the last time we had like a full sort of physical suit.
Any type of practical suit stuff.
From here on out, it's pretty much going to be CG.
And by the way, again, going back to this whole idea of bravado, recklessness, fear, repeat.
Yeah.
He finally gets the face on. He says, I'm the best. And then the ass part is what knocks him on his ass. Like
that's right. Yeah.
It's great.
Oh, it's once again, another perfect, like almost Looney Tunes-esque timing.
Yes.
Of like, you all forgot about that one part that went by. And then as he's getting there and in the pose and says, I'm the best, then the butt plate, it turns out that's what it was that was lodged in there, comes flying out, hits him in the back. And like, I think my impression was that it then shatters his concentration. So then he like lets all the stuff go. Like I can't imagine one other piece going on.
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me.
But that was my thought. Is like and then like it breaks his concentration, and he sort of like whatever mental muscle he was flexing to keep all this stuff together, he lets go, and then all the pieces fall off. Which I know is again a bad design.
But that's bad.
That's
he's
how I read it.
That's
how I read the thing.
That's an interesting point. That's
one of the
interesting
piece
point.
going in would cause the whole thing to fall off, because that's sort of the opposite of what you want. Because we'll see later on that the suit can function in just limited capacity.
Of course, right. And then Jarvis maybe makes one of the greatest sarcastic statements ever, that if I were Tony, I'd fire him on the spot. He'd be deactivated. Because he's hurt. He's on the ground. Yeah. As always, sir, a great pleasure watching you work. And I'd be like, dude, seriously.
So we have this really cool high tech, like, look, oh, this is amazing suit. And then Tony's like literally flat on his ass. And then we have that sort of like that, like the button on it, Jarvis. And then the whole tone of the movie now shifts.
No.
Because then I had to go and turn on the TV, and that's when he happened. And so the first thing we see is logo for the 10 Rings. So as we close out of minute 8 into minute 9, then we are getting into a piece of propaganda shown by the 10 Rings. And we don't actually know who this is yet, except that as soon as that voice comes and we see on the screen, we recognize who it is. And that is, of course, Sir Ben Kingsley. 149 acting credits on IMDb as of this recording. I think last when I looked at the listing, there was even more stuff in the Projects of the Future. And even shortly before recording this episode, found out he is returning again to the MCU in a 2025 project. He won the Oscar for Gandhi in 1982. So Rob, it's time to play the IMDb game.
Oh, no. Okay.
Iron Man 3 is one of the films, and Gandhi is the other one. So there are only, for those of you who are coming in now, first of all, welcome. Second of all, really? The IMDb game, IMDb puts up 4 movies for prominent actors. No one knows why they choose them. So yeah, he only has 2 other movies in this one that you would have to get. And they're both, I say, pretty prominent films. So that's not, every once in a while, a weird deep cut will come up. But in this case, that is not the case.
Okay, and I'm gonna embarrass myself right now because I can't.
One of them I can guarantee you have seen.
Ah, crap. Okay.
One of them, the other one you probably have heard of, but might not see, because that's the way that was.
I know what it is.
Okay.
Dave.
No, though he is amazing in Dave.
He's amazing in Dave.
That is another one of those long lost classics.
And by the way, full stop. Like if you're listening to this right now and you're like, Dave, Kevin Kline, Sigourney Weaver, go watch that movie now.
That is a great one of those. I feel like a lost gem. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about some of my other favorite Kingsley movies, but I'm just as we get so there's two.
Oh, what the heck, dude? I don't know.
Okay, one of them was directed by Steven Spielberg. I won't let
my
you
brain
that
just
long.
freezes up in these all the time. I'm gonna feel stupid.
It's Schindler's List.
Oh crap. Yes.
Yeah. The other one is Sexy Beast.
Oh no,
Yes, I've never seen that one, but I know what it is.
Dave.
Yeah, I know, Dave. I would say, well, so just my thing. For me, when I first sort of became aware of him was Sneakers.
Oh,
great movie.
Great movie.
Plays the villain in that one. There's another movie in that same era called Death and the Maiden, which I ended up talking about on the Sitting in the Dark podcast a little while back. It's a one-room sort of tense thriller of like woman interrogating the man she thinks is like a criminal, but then the whole question is it really the right person, or is she just crazy? And then also he was Festa in a 1996 movie version of Twelfth Night. Which is one of my favorite Shakespeare movies of all times because it really gets into it is one of Shakespeare's comedies, but the way they play it is sort of bittersweet, which is a really nice way to do it. And he's fantastic. And then he sings in it too. But as we're getting into deeper and darker things, as we're going along, we're seeing this is a piece of propaganda. Now, obviously, the propaganda, this is where we're not really equipped to deal with a lot of the stuff that they're going to bring up in here. So we're going to tread lightly over a lot of these things. I think there are probably better podcasters who will dig deeper into the political and social ramifications.
Can I just begin by saying we apologize?
Yeah.
For all of it.
Yeah, exactly. As you know, as Americans, we have to look back at our history.
Sorry.
And go, yeah,
we're sorry.
We had nothing to do with it, but at the same time,
no, we're still sorry. We're still sorry.
Still sorry. Yeah, we're trying.
Maybe.
So obviously these were inspired by the tapes of Osama bin Laden. This was very much on people's minds, still even that many years after 9/11. We're going to tread lightly over this because it deserves much deeper.
No, of course. And here's the deal. Like, okay, so this is a propaganda film. It starts off with him basically in his very provocative voice. Yeah. You're seeing people executed.
Yes.
Right. I mean, like that's actually happening in here. He talks about a story. I mean, could go right into the first story he brings up.
The Sand Creek Massacre or the Shivington Massacre.
And he talks about, basically in 1864, American troops went in and slaughtered the women and children of the Cheyenne tribe while their men were out on a hunt.
Yeah.
And you listen to that, and some people will be like, oh, that would be horrible if that actually happened. Oh, it did.
Yeah, it absolutely
happened. That actually happened.
Yeah.
And it's wild. I mean, and here's the only part I'm just going to do just a little bit of deep dive on this. Mm-hmm. So this happens. This is all like late 1800s, so 1860s, like I said. Mm-hmm. We tried to cover it up. Then, like, when it became evident that, no, this actually happened, there were treaties that all happened because of this. I think it's the Treaty of the Little Arkansas that then we reneged on like 2 years later. The Medicine Lodge Treaty. Again, Google all this and you'll figure it out. Yeah. But I mean, this is literally on the heels of the Trail of Tears.
Yeah.
This is all going on at the same time. Basically, genocide of the Native American peoples in the United States. This is real serious, heavy stuff. It is one of the darkest periods of many dark periods in American history. And I will tell you that this whole segment, I dare to say too soon. I can even remember being in the theater and going, whoa, okay. Well, this got really dark really fast.
Yeah.
And I'm still not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like you don't want to forget history, and like these stories need to be told and all the thing. But at the same time, in an Iron Man movie, I don't know. It's
Yes.
I'm sort of with you. I'm in that same kind of thing of like, yes, like we need to make sure this is not forgotten and brushed over, and just be like, oh, it's the Wild Wild West, pew pew, shoot 'em up. Like, yeah, the way you need to. But is this the forum to discuss this deep thing? But I guess if they're digging into what they're digging into is sort of like the ugly side of America and that stuff, like to sort of, and I think it's almost intentionally problematic or troublesome because that's exactly what the mastermind, the Mandarin, is doing, is trying to like disturb people.
Well, no, and I guess where it really comes home is in terms of the real ugly part of this is he transitions from that story into what is the purpose of this video? It's basically to take responsibility or take credit for a slaughter of wives and children of American servicemen and women at the Ali al-Salam Air Base in Kuwait, which is a real place.
Yeah.
That is an actual air base. Yeah. And he's saying that, oh, yeah, while they were out on a mission, all of the families of the service members were at a church and we blew it up. Okay. This is now, we've gotten to the point where this is where I went when sitting in the theater back in 2013 and went, I don't know. I don't know if this is such a good idea.
As I will say, though, cinematically establishing a villain to hate. Ooh, yeah. Well, you got under our skin, that's for sure.
And let's just say this, spoilers, maybe. Let's say this event, as this Mandarin is saying happened. Yeah. Let's say it actually happened the way he says. It didn't. They're clearly telling a story, and I appreciate that. Too real. This is not appropriate. And I still feel about this. This is one of the reasons why I remember now why I did not like the movie. I think you're playing games with things that's too real for me.
Yeah, especially for a movie about a guy in a metal suit flying around
who just fought aliens and work with the super soldier who was asleep in the ice for 60 years or whatever. Like, guys, like, I don't know. This still feels crazy to me. And then again, maybe this is a spoiler. It would be really horrible to make all this and then find out that the guy's a joke.
Well, I mean, we'll get into sort of that. There is a Mandarin. There is someone pulling strings. There is someone doing all this stuff. It's just not the face that we're seeing.
I know, but this still to me stings. Maybe
maybe that's intentional. So
maybe
as we then sort of are coming out of it, then he specifically calls out the American president, and so that is President William Ellis, played by William Sadler. So William Sadler has 184 credits on IMDb. Rob, I'm sorry, it's come again.
Oh no,
it's the IMDb game. He has 4 now. One of them,
Rambo.
No.
Rambo 2.
No.
Rambo 3.
No. I mean,
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Close. I'll give you that. Though. He's not in Excellent Adventure. He's in Bogus Journey. But
Bogus Journey.
That.
Thank you.
That.
Okay,
so
Bogus Journey.
Yes, one of them you're going to have to know.
Again,
the other two, I mean, you absolutely can struggle with, but one of them you have to know because if you like me had TNT on cable, and so whenever there's like a 50% chance when you turned on TNT, this movie would be playing.
Okay.
During the 90s and the 2000s.
I'm just going through like Time Cop.
I can tell you on this list there are 2 Stephen King adaptations.
That doesn't even help me.
Okay,
I'm a loser.
The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh my!
I go, folks. For those of you who are just listening at home, Rob is literally like staring off into space, going through everyone in the Shawshank Redemption, trying to figure out where is William Sadler in the Shawshank.
Is he? Well, he's so much younger.
He's one of the guards.
He's one of the guards.
He's
one of the prisoners.
Prisoners, yes. Sorry.
Oh, he's one of the ones on the roof.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The other two are The Mist, which I don't know what you would have gotten. And he took on John McClane in Die Hard 2.
Die Hard 2. Oh my God. No, that's I'm okay.
There's another military role.
Give me your share your disappointment with me, everyone. Die Hard 2, yes. Oh my! About 2 Die Hard references.
I know, right? So here he's. I will give a shout out to.
He's naked. He's naked in Die Hard 2, isn't he?
That's right.
He starts off naked.
Starts out naked.
That's a weird. That's a weird pull, but there you go.
It's true though. I will also say again, pulling from Sitting in the Dark, the horror podcast that I am a member of. I will give a shout out to one of my favorite roles of his, which is Tales from the Crypt: Demon Knight. It is a fantastic horror movie that is very much overlooked because people think of it like sort of looped in with the whole TV adaptation thing. But it was just a great, creepy story about he plays a guy who's on the run from demons and gets stuck in a house. It's sort of like Assault on Precinct 13, but with monsters. It's a really good movie. Here he's playing President William Ellis, who is named in honor of the original comics author, Warren Ellis. As the sort of video package from the Mandarin comes to an end, we have the iconic line, which was in the Dollar trailers, "You'll never see me coming." Which I tried, but like only Sir Ben Kingsley can really pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole, it's the you know who I am.
Yes.
You don't know where I am. Yeah. And you'll never see me coming.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. We both got a chance to do it.
There we go. I'm going to tell you, though, that's still William Sadler. I'm still blown away by. Do we know the presidencies during this period of the MCU?
Before William Ellis, not really.
Yeah, it's not.
We don't know where.
Out.
Like I didn't go through every year that's on the Marvel MCU timeline online, but it lines up to history at a certain point and then it deviates. We're not exactly sure where it deviated. And because also the election things don't line up in the same way, because at this time of this, he had only become president he's still within his first year of president during this. So then this leads into a parade of news anchors, some real, some not, talking about their responsibility, seeing the media coverage of this. And then we also see then the return of another MCU favorite. We see the return of Don Cheadle as James Rhodey Rhodes. He has, at the time of recording, 108 credits on IMDb. Last time we saw him in the MCU was in Iron Man 2. He was completely omitted from the Avengers, which they make a joke about later on the thing too, but it did seem weird. So in between, he was working a lot at this time period. So I'm not going to go through everything, but the one thing I did want to mention is he did during the time between Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3, he did the Captain Planet shorts from Funny or Die, which if you've not seen those, they are really funny. Captain Planet was, I don't want to go like a hat within a hat within a hat here, but Captain Planet was a cartoon from the 90s about like a sort of environmental thing of a bunch of kids that they all had different like special things that would combine, and he was an eco warrior who was trying to help the planet. And so they did this series on Funny or Die where Don Cheadle came back to Captain Planet and was not too happy about how things had gone. Was a little more foul-mouthed and violent about his response to the environment. But they were very funny. They did, I think, 5 of them, and people still talk about it to this day. Like he says, people still come up to him and be like, "Hey, Captain Planet," even though total he only played the character, if you want to say it, for like maybe 15 minutes total. But
it's the outfit.
It's the internet. Like
it's the whole
internet
thing.
Never forgets. So then he's introduced not as War Machine, but as the Iron Patriot, which is going to lead us into a little bit of a comic book deep dive.
Whoa. I didn't know I was going to get wet.
Yeah, I know, right? So there we go. All right, let's think. Okay, so Iron Patriot, where does this come from? All right, so back during the time in Marvel Comics, during the Secret Invasion. Now, the Secret Invasion that happens in the MCU is a very different beast, which unfortunately we're going to have to talk about because some of the stuff sort of correlates here. The Secret Invasion that happened in the Marvel Comics was the Skrulls essentially one. They had replaced half the heroes, half the villains, and a bunch of politicians across the globe. And they revealed themselves all at the same time and said, we already won this war. You didn't even know you were fighting it. It was a huge event, and then they had taken on the powers of these heroes and villains. So suddenly you had Skrull Wolverine fighting against actual Wolverine. I mean, like, it was a huge, gigantic, world-shaking event. During all of this, our old friend Norman Osborn was running the Thunderbolts. The Thunderbolts is kind of like, I guess, for people who don't read the comics, kind of like Marvel's Suicide Squad. They are criminals who were put to work. Thunderbolts is worthy of a longer discussion of this, but like from the Secret Invasion time, the Thunderbolts were criminals who were put into work as heroes as part of their service. Now, there's a longer history of Thunderbolts, which I'm happy to talk about, but is not relevant to what we're talking about here. So Norman Osborn was running that group of and so during the huge battle and all this going on, he ended up assassinating the leader of the Skrulls, the Queen of the Skrulls, like on camera, blam, shot to the head. And because the world is the world it is, he was celebrated for this. And so everybody's like, he's a hero. Look what he did. He saved the world. Norman Osborn, top of the world. So at the same time, oddly enough, Tony Stark was running S.H.I.E.L.D. Once again, comics, ladies and gentlemen.
Comic books, comics, yeah.
And so he was seen as having failed because he let the Secret Invasion happen under his watch. So when the political climate shifted after Secret Invasion, he was ousted and actually declared a traitor. And Norman Osborn was put in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., which he promptly disbanded and created Hammer. What does Hammer stand for? No one knows. It was just called HAMMER, all like it, spelled like an acronym, never stood for anything, just because that's as far as Norman wanted to play. Because Tony Stark was then treated as a traitor, that meant that all of his assets were seized by the government in this case being Norman Osborn, who then seized control of the Tony Stark's armory and got one of his armors, repainted it, and started wearing it himself, and called himself, that's right, Iron Patriot. He ended up creating his own group of Avengers who were actually all villains, but they're taking on the roles of the Avengers. So weirdly, that's where this comes from. So
wait, the hammer has nothing to do with Justin Hammer.
Nothing to do with Justin Hammer. No, Justin Hammer, I think, was dead by that point in Marvel, in the comics. Oh. But he's probably alive again because comics, ladies and gentlemen. But it's I get what they were doing here, but at the same time, it's a little weird. Like that, they're taking like a prominent villain thing and putting it in there, because any of us comic people are like, does that mean Rhodey's evil now? But it turns out, like, spoiler alert, no, but maybe, but no. But it's weird that they would take like the outfit of a villain and give it to a hero and be like, yep, there it is. Because it's almost like, did you not do the full research on this?
Ooh, that might be for the next episode.
It may be, yeah, because it comes back around. So like maybe like eventually, I think Rhodey did call himself Iron Patriot. There was a conflict and stuff, but that was sort of because of this. But it's a little bit weird. So as we start getting into the media reactions to this thing, that's sort of where the minute comes to an end.
It doesn't look great. It looks gaudy. It looks inelegant.
Yeah.
That star around the arc reactor is killing me.
Yeah.
It's designed to be inelegant.
It's gaudy and it's ugly, and
And stay tuned, because we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, because Rhodey's about to show up, so we're going to talk about that. So, in the meantime, if you've enjoyed what you heard, or you're looking forward to the future things, you can support us by becoming a member. TrueStory.fm/join. You can become a member, and you get access to these episodes early, plus behind the scenes stuff and your exclusive member feed and Discord channels, all sorts of wonderful stuff. And it's pretty cheap. It's $5 a month, less than the price of a Happy Meal. And if you want to go for the yearly thing, it's only $55. So you're saving some money on it. We will be back to discuss the next chunk of Iron Man 3. We hope you will come along with us, as we're going to go hang out with two of our pals at a local seaside venue. Should be a nice, calm conversation. I can't think of anything bad.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Find out next time. Enough said.
Bye.